Resident ready!
Well. It's coming down pretty hard, and it's so incredibly sad. It really is, believe me. It's the saddest it's ever been. But for the fake Resident Evil fans that are in here, we want you shashaba liboso. The Resident Evil 4 remake looks like nothing but slop. And it's so incredibly sad how these fake Resident Evil fans have infested this franchise. You see, these fake Resident Evil fans came from Fortnite to this all-new edition of Resident Evil 2. They came from Fortnite to this all-new edition of Resident Evil 3. And somehow, someway, they think they have that certified badge. Somehow, someway, they think they have a say on what this franchise should be, where this franchise should go. But we certainly know that they don't. They don't have that certified badge because they haven't been there since day one. World-class veteran video game critic Michael Does Life was at GameStop day one to buy the Resident Evil 1 remake and the strategy guide. Because folks at home, I'm a real Resident Evil fan, and I clamor for quality. And when you look at the Resident Evil 4 remake, this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 4, it is quite clear, folks at home, that this is not Resident Evil. And what I mean by that, fake fans, fake Resident Evil fans, is that this is more akin to the Evil Within than it is Resident Evil. But you don't care. And since you don't care, we're going to take a time out. Look what I got. Trolley! She doesn't love! It's Valentine's Day! Where are the gamer girls? Where are the beautiful women? It's a sausage fest in here, day in and day out, and it's so incredibly sad. But you don't care, do you? You really don't care, and it's so incredibly sad. Luckily, the rain has stopped for the time being. But if it does pick back up, we will have to conclude the show. So make sure you get the fake Resident Evil fans in here as soon as possible, because Mother Nature is quite unpredictable. That I know, and believe me, that I can tell you. The problem with this all-new upcoming edition, like we've talked about, the problem with this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 4, like we've talked about, folks at home, is that it's not Resident Evil. It looks more akin to the Evil Within than it does Resident Evil. And when you look at Resident Evil 4, that game is a tightly produced game, all the way down to the cutscenes. Okay? You're not roaming around the land like Sam Fisher in a stealth mission. Okay? And that's what you're doing in this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 4. They have added the crouch mechanic, so now you can play as Sam Fisher in Resident Evil as you infiltrate your way throughout the land in Resident Evil 4. And that's not Resident Evil. Never in a Resident Evil game were you able to do Sam Fisher movements. It's really so incredibly sad. So what the lazy millennial devs over at Clueless Capcom did is they looked at Shinji Mikami's The Evil Within. They looked at Shinji Mikami's The Evil Within, and they said, wow, that's fantastic. And they copied that, and now that's what you're getting here in Resident Evil. You're not getting Resident Evil here with this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 4. You're getting The Evil Within. And for some people, that's fantastic. For some people, that's exactly what they're clamoring for. But these fake Resident Evil fans don't care about quality. They don't care because they like this all-new edition of Resident Evil 2, and they said this all-new edition of Resident Evil 3 was trash when it was just as bad as this all-new edition of Resident Evil 2. They quite clearly just don't clamor for quality. The amount of cut content in this all-new edition of Resident Evil 2 is astounding, but no one wants to talk about that because they have their head up their ass.
Eagles Lair donated £3 through Super Chat.
That's what we're talking about. Eagles Lair coming through, popping the cherry. Hell yeah, brother, we appreciate that. Eagles Lair coming through, popping the cherry. Ladies and gentlemen, we are out here live in the Phil Spencer Garden. It was raining just moments ago as we started, and another cloud might be brewing up here. And I'll tell you what, folks, these fake Resident Evil fans literally jumped off of the bus in Fortnite, and somehow, some way, they landed in Raccoon City. And it's so incredibly sad because now the Resident Evil franchise is infested with a bunch of fake fans. A bunch of fake fans that don't clamor for quality, and the amount of changes. And look, we've already played Resident Evil 4 for 15 years straight, okay? We've already played this game over and over and over again. So it is interesting to see Capcom take a different approach with it because we don't want to see the exact same thing play out over and over and over again. The last time I bought Resident Evil 4 was on the Oculus Quest, okay? I don't want to play that version of the game again. However, with that said, change has to be changed in a way that makes sense. You can't just change something for the sake of changing something, because it isn't going to work that way. And when you implement stealth mechanics from the Evil Within, from Splinter Cell, into Resident Evil 4, you have a shit product potentially on your hand. Because now you've taken the DNA out of Resident Evil and it's no longer Resident Evil.
Eagles Lair donated £10 through Super Chat.
Let's get it, baby. Eagles Lair coming through, support the show. Eagles Lair coming through, supporting the show, carrying the show. Hell yeah, brother, we appreciate that. Eagles Lair coming through really hard and really strong in the face of adversity. We are out here live on Valentine's Day. It's cold, it's miserable, we're all alone, and that's the reality of the situation. But what these fake Resident Evil fans need to know and need to understand is that it's over for Resident Evil, believe me. And the future of this franchise is now in jeopardy because, again, the fake Resident Evil fans have infested this franchise and they don't clamor for quality quite clearly.
KH donated 119 Norwegian kroner through Super Chat.
What the hell? KH coming through with the $100 super chat. Holy shit. KH coming through with the $100 super chat. Holy shit, coming through really hard and really strong. Hell yeah, brother, we appreciate that. KH coming through really hard and really strong with the $100 super chat. That is unbelievable. Hell yeah, brother, we appreciate that. These fake Resident Evil fans are not listening. They're not listening. I clamor for quality. The Resident Evil franchise is in my blood, baby. I've been there since day one. I grew up with this shit. But these new Resident Evil fans that do not care about quality, they don't care about quality, they don't clamor for quality, they have no interest in quality. They will accept anything that is brand new and shiny. The biggest problem, if you're just tuning in, the biggest problem with this all new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 4 is that it's not Resident The biggest problem with this all new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 4 is that it's not Resident Evil. They are taking the DNA out of Resident Evil. And now you're roaming around at the farm with the Chainsaw Man as Sam Fisher, crouching in a Resident Evil game and doing stealth mechanics. And look at the gameplay. It's in slow motion. Play Resident Evil 4, Zoomers. Play it. I know you haven't. Play Resident Evil 4, Zoomers, and tell me how action-packed and fast-paced that game is. The game is very tight. Resident Evil 4 Remake is not tight. It's loose, and I'm going to tell you what, it's slow. Okay? You can look at the gameplay for yourself and come to that agreement. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm a real Resident Evil fan, and you guys are clamoring for slop day in and day out. Okay? If you are a real Resident Evil fan, you should have said, you know what? Why is Capcom remaking Resident Evil 4? Why are they reimagining Resident Evil 4? When they could have taken an older game and brought it back in the modern day era in a way that makes sense. Resident Evil 4 is 2005. Code Veronica is 1998, 1999. And look, we don't want them to continue to destroy greatness. They already ruined the classic Resident Evil 2 game. Just a terrible remake. No moss, no spiders, no crows, etc. The scenarios were total trash. It's a garbage-ass game. You got Justin Bieber as Leon S. Kennedy. What the? Resident Evil 3 Remake was a total disaster. There's no choices in the game. A key part of the Resident Evil 3 experience was the choice system. That was thrown out the window. The clock tower's not in the game, among many other things. The gore system was downgraded. Terrible products over and over and over again from the lazy millennial devs over at Clueless Capcom. Resident Evil Village, a total fucking snooze fest. They continue to shove that down your throat as if you like the game. Sweetheart, no one likes the game. It's a trash game, Resident Evil Village. The only reason why I got some attention is because they like the big titty vampire lady. And don't get me wrong, she's sexy. I'd love it if she could just sit on my face. But ultimately, at the end of the day, that's the only reason. That's the only reason why people care about Resident Evil Village. You damn know that I'm right.
Consumed by the 667 donated $6 through Super Chat. Real Resident Evil fan here. I'm hyped for the RE4 remake. Capcom knows what they're doing. It's Gitty 2023. Shut down the stream arm. It's over.
Absolutely not. You don't know what you're talking about, and here's a trolley for you. Oh shit! You're not listening! You're not listening! The lazy millennial devs over at Clueless Capcom have their head up their ass. This is a Splinter Cell game now. This is the Evil Within. This is not Resident Evil. And did you see what they did to the merchant? Hello, stranger. Terrible voice acting. They're phoning it in. I mean, it's terrible. The censorship is obviously going to be quite apparent when you play this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 4. Guys, it's starting to rain again. We're going to have to wrap this up. Oh! It's starting to rain again. Oh, oh my God. You guys are not listening. There's a tornado out here. My trolleys. We have to wrap this up. Mother Nature said we can't stream. We tried to tell you fake Resident Evil fans for the past few days that the cracks were starting to show with this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 4, but you don't want to listen. You don't want to listen. These fake Resident Evil fans just do not, like I said many times, and I'll say it again and again and again, they don't clamor for quality. They literally came from Fortnite. They jumped off of the bus in Fortnite. They're like, oh yeah, Michael. And somehow, some way, as such, since they jumped off of the bus in Fortnite, they landed in Raccoon City. And now they think they have that certified badge. Sweetheart, you haven't been with the franchise since day one. And I'm not gatekeeping, I'm just saying the real Resident Evil fans clamor for quality. The real Resident Evil fans know that this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 4 is not going to be where it needs to be. It's not Resident Evil, and it's certainly not Resident Evil 4. It's Evil Within meets Splinter Cell, with a dose of Resident Evil mixed in. The gameplay is slow, the gameplay looks clunky, and the game has a weird vibe to it, in the sense that the graphics in the Resident Evil 4 remake, this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 4, the graphics in this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 4, the Resident Evil 4 remake, look like they're straight. The character models look like they're straight from Celebrity Deathmatch, bro. Okay, they have this weird sheen to them. They don't even look realistic, but you go back to the Resident Evil 4, the original game, and they actually look a little bit more realistic despite being a little bit more dated in terms of fidelity. That's the reality of the situation. They are changing things just for the sake of changing things. This is not going to be a great game because it's not Resident Evil. We're clamoring for something new. Capcom is reluctant to give us something new. Resident Evil Village was a total disaster, and I cannot imagine where they are eventually going to take Resident Evil 9. It's going to be a total shit show, but Capcom isn't going to remake Resident Evil Code Veronica, isn't going to remake Resident Evil 5. They're going to stick with what they know is going to work so incredibly well, and that's the Resident Evil 4 remake, this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 4. And since the fake Resident Evil fans have infested this franchise after every single release, and you literally have Resident Evil now in Fortnite, at the end of the day, what can very well be said is that it's over for Resident Evil, and it's certainly over for the fake Resident Evil fans that are clamoring for quality. Oh wait, they don't do that. It's over certainly for the real Resident Evil fans like myself that are clamoring for quality, that wants Capcom to bring something new to the table, and just because they change a few things just for the sake of change doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be quality. Change is only good if it's for the better. And you look at this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 4, and it really is more akin to the Evil Within than it is Resident Evil. And that's my problem with this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 4. Now, with that said, as we still have time, since it is not raining, we are going to open up the lines, members only. So if you are a member, go to the community tab on the channel, and you will see how to call in. Click the link, and you will be invited into the call. So if you are a member, go to the community tab, and you could potentially call into the show here as we have a few more moments before the rain gets continually crazy. So we are going to continue to move the wheels in a way that makes sense. And we're going to go to the community tab here, and we're going to click on the link, and we're going to hope that this works. So if you would like to call in and are a member, click the link in the community tab, and we're going to meet you right there as we still have time. The lines are open for members. Click on the community tab, members, and you can join in on the show here right now. Here we go. We got someone calling in. Hello, you're on the air. Yeah, hello, you're on the air. What do you think about this all new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 4?
Could be interesting. We haven't seen anything really yet. It's like 20-minute gameplay. And I played the original. I like it. I'll see what it looks like. I think it's gonna be on torrent for the like 10 days after release, so I'll download it. I'll check it out. And
well, there might be a demo. I mean, that's the rumor on the block. Yeah, there could very well be a demo for this all-new upcoming edition. Hello, you're on the air.
hello.
It's not working.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, you're on the air.
Something's wrong with the connection.
Well, it's raining out here, so there probably is something wrong with the connection. I'll tell you right here and right now.
Vince donated £5 through Super Chat. Can the real Resident
anyone else
Evil
joining
fans
in?
please stand up? This is
Well, I mean, look, it's there's a lot going on right now that I can tell you. Look, you might be the only caller, but we appreciate you for calling in. We're going to have to move the wheels. It's starting to get crazy out here with the rain, but we do appreciate you calling in. Thank you so kindly. We're going to end the call segment right there, as we only had one caller, and it is starting to pick up in the terms of rain. Big Boss coming through. Hell yeah, brother. We appreciate that. Big Boss coming through. I guess that guy said that it to the Resident Evil 4 remake, this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 4. Okay? And, you know, it very well could be. But based off of what I'm seeing thus far, the changes that they have seemingly made, these fake Resident Evil fans are ready to consume anything that is brand new and shiny. And this is a dead franchise. The Resident Evil franchise is certainly a dead franchise, that I know, and believe me, that I can tell you. Look at the view count. We had more people for Dead Space last night, because that's more relevant than the Resident Evil franchise. The Resident Evil franchise fell off many, many years ago. And Resident Evil Village certainly didn't help. And that's why Capcom went back to the drawing board and they said, how can we maximize the Resident Evil franchise in the modern day era? We remake Resident Evil 4. We roll out this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 4. And certainly that has people interested in Resident Evil again. At least it seemingly does right now on paper. The game doesn't come out until later March, okay? So we're just popping in to let the fake Resident Evil fans know that this is the reality of the situation, because by request, some people are saying, hey, Michael, we want to see you talk about this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 4. Sweetheart, I'm here on Valentine's Day, okay? And we're talking about it. But no one else wants to have this dialogue because they want to sit around and wait for the next Cyberpunk. Well, sweetheart, that's not happening, because ultimately, at the end of the day, the next Cyberpunk is never releasing because the fake Cyberpunk fans didn't want to listen because they were too busy going, oh my God, Michael, what you talking about there, buddy? Here, you ain't nothing but clown. And they told me that I was so wrong about Cyberpunk 2077 when we put the damn game 6 feet under before it even fucking released. Look, the reality of the situation, fake Resident Evil fans, is that the entire situation is so incredibly sad. We have tried to tell the fake Resident Evil fans time and time again, and they just don't want to listen. Look at the gameplay for this all-new upcoming edition of Resident Evil 4. It is a total snooze fest. It is a total snooze fest, but you guys don't care. I mean, it is not Resident Evil. But you guys obviously haven't played the Evil Within because you're like, well, Michael, I don't know what you're talking about there, buddy. You ain't nothing but a clown. Yeah, you're on. Hello? This isn't even working anymore. We got to move the wheels. Things are starting to break, guys. Things are starting to break out here. The rain is continuing to come down. I really didn't think it was going to rain, but it is going to rain, folks at home, quite clearly. Things are getting wet, and we're going to have to wrap this up here. So short and sweet, we got the message across, and we're going to see you later tonight with something. Whether it be the Dead Space remake, Hogwarts Legacy, or something else, we will certainly see you later tonight. But the rain is just becoming too consistent to continue streaming out here in the Phil Spencer Garden. But that was the Valentine's Day special for the fake Resident Evil fans. We appreciate you guys for tuning in, tagging along, supporting the show. And with that said, it's over.